Richard Moore, and you're listening to the Case Closed, One Truth Prevails podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to episode 12 of the Case Closed, One Truth Prevails podcast. I'm here with Professor C and Joe B again, and so there's no really further introductions that they would have to make, so we can really just jump right into this today.
I think we just spoke last time about the first batch, or the second one, I think. And then since then, like, we've had, I think, an extra 3 batches totally, right?
Yeah, we're at 51, 52 episodes, I think, now, total from them. So it's a huge deal, obviously. And I think it's, at this point, it just seems to me like the episodes are being given in batches, at least to the studio, at least on that side. It just appears that way based on, when we found out recording basically started, not even 18 months ago, and then they're already getting out all of this material. So it seems like, TMS is commissioning, at least it seems from my perspective, at least it seems like every 52 or so, they're like going to them or something on that side, or licensing out, on that side. So
do you guys think that we would be getting like another batch down the line?
Nick, she said like 60 something is her guess.
Which,
granted, she could just be off, and it could just be 50.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Who said?
When you interviewed Gia Burns, she said like she remembers recording like 60 episodes.
Oh, I didn't recall that, but I guess it's true. Oh.
Yeah. Which is fine. I do feel like we have one more batch, like before any relicensing up would happen. Also, it's in a funny spot when TMS Entertainment's commissioning it. In terms of like what's licensed, it's very easy for them to pick at, if that makes sense, because they own it. Like if they say, I want these episodes done, right, and skip they can do that. They don't want to do that when selling it, because then you lose profit. But when it's like, if you're paying for what you want done, it's very different. So it's been interesting seeing this far that they haven't been skipping any episodes.
I feel like the skipping episodes thing would be beneficial for like a series as big as Conan. Like, eventually they could like do a box set and release all the episodes if they wanted to.
Yeah. I think what's going on, I still stand by in the sense is I feel it's going to be, when they do go back, they will start skipping episodes. I feel like starting with the TV originals did 2 things. One, it gave the time for the characters to find their voice in episodes that don't matter.
Yeah.
And then also when they do catch up, if this thing's even continuing, if they do catch up, they can continue doing the TV originals just so they have something to put out all the time. That's like new and current, along with Crunchyroll. But in terms of like rewinding the clock, I don't know if they would actually redo everything like start to finish. They might.
I mean, it's just because where they started, I think is kind of strange. I think if
they started with the first licensed episode of 2020.
Right, but that's what I mean. There's some oddity as to where that starts, where it seems like they're just almost like they're doing them by year almost, because they almost recorded all of 2021. It seemed like as well. So I don't know. It's almost like okay, we're gonna record this much, then get a little behind, and then catch up again. Almost just kind of what it seems like. But it's hard to say what they're doing. I think in some ways they wanted to see are the people on Tubi going to react to it, to obviously commission doing more. It has a lot of Singapore dub sort of feel because of that, though, because that's kind of how that dub was handled. And then I guess when it didn't do as well, on television at the time, at least for what they were looking for, they just, didn't come back. So I don't know. It's definitely interesting from that perspective, but I think that there's a good reason to hold out hope that more will come. I just who knows when that'll be at this point, because when I talked to Gia, it didn't seem like they were actively recording. It seemed like the material had been done for a while, at least as how it came across to me. Of course, there's NDAs and all sorts of things there, so they could have been recording, and she just can't talk about it. So,
and like I said, it depends if there was 50 or 60. There's also a chance that they might do what they did last time and literally record like 50 episodes and then release them in big bunches again. Like,
that's true. Yeah.
And it could have also been, hey, TMS Entertainment's like, hey, we want to pay you for 2 years worth of episodes. Make them. Maybe they weren't happy with it, and they're going to go with someone else. And that requires almost restarting. Not necessarily saying that they would restart everything. But I mean, like, finding a new company and getting the actors that you want to transfer over, stuff like that. Like, could very well. Because, like, hey, it's all contracted. So, like, everything that's done... that's mutually has to be done between the two companies. If TMS honestly wasn't happy with it, would they continue? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they would just look for somebody else. And not.
I hope not, because the whole thing changing hands. I just don't know. I mean, if they change the cast again, the odds. I mean, I probably won't watch it. Just because it's like, why do they keep doing that? You at some point the consumer becomes confused as to what they're watching, and it it puts the brand in a bad spot. And I mean, they're already doing it from the movie cast to now. Granted, they kept a lot of those main folks, but it's I hope they don't do it again. It would certainly leave a bad taste in my mouth personally if they go and do this again, just because these actors have really started stepping into their characters pretty well, and it sounds good.
Look, I'll watch it any way they give it to me, because one, I don't have to read it, and Conan's the only anime I'm extremely nostalgic for in English, to where I will watch it in any official English capacity as long as the voices are semi-decent. And I do agree that they're finally hitting their footing. You're not getting as many weird noises as we used to. But I think the only way where I would actually be okay with it and wouldn't mind if they do switch it again, because like I said, I'll watch it either way, but like it will bother me a little bit, but I'll still watch it. But the only way I'd be 100% okay with it, like, I'm glad you did this actually, is if they get LA actors. It's no offense to Miami, but like I appreciate that they, like, because some of them are really good, and it's a shame that they get put in that bad light. But I would be okay if it went to LA.
I will say
back to Bang Zoom. Like, if they just said, hey, Bang Zoom, we're actually going to pay your premium. We're going to do the dub with you guys. I'd also be okay with that, because half the voice cast is already there. And everything that happens in the movies.
I'm not sure that they really do as much recording from home though as it's perceived, because when I talked to Gia, it sounded like most everybody was they were all going in. I think the only thing that placated those first episodes was just the fact that that particular studio is dubbing as a new sort of concept for them, because that's not necessarily what they've historically done, but I think as time went on, I think after those first 15 20 episodes,
like, right now, like, they're really good. Like, I don't mind them staying. I'm not, like, I just want to make that clear, like, I'm not like hating on them. Like I said, if this was the ride to the end, I'm 100% okay with it, like, because like they're good, they're all stepping into their characters. The only thing I just don't like, I feel like, and it's also with Conan just being so long as it is, that it's hard to keep track of everything, especially when you first get it thrown in your lap. Kind of like Bang Zoom said, when they did The Darkest Nightmare, they had no idea of Akai and Bourbon's history, but they're like, we did it the best we could, without knowing anything. And it's just the little inconsistencies that are constantly repeated from the studio that I've never seen any anime studio in my life do, even Funimation, and Funimation is king of those, like, mistakes, calling Sherry Shelley and stuff like that, like Harley telling Conan the name of the Men in Black, which is not how that happened. But like, they call Sierra Sarah multiple times, and then every once in a while they'll go back to calling her Sierra, but then go back to Sarah, and it's like, it's jarring, and they still do that to this day. And it's just that kind of consistency of even just saying the names wrong bother me. You'll have Amuro and then Amuro and stuff like that, and it's very, very jarring, especially when it's coming out of the same character's mouth. Like, it's different if everyone said it a little bit differently, but it's literally like the same characters over and over repeating the mistakes.
Yeah. And it seems like, I will say, I noticed in this second half of the batch there was more directing support overall, and I think that with Rolly Gutierrez working on episodes with Oscar Cheda as well, it seemed to really the quality just seemed to really go up in a big way. So I think it's just going to come down to them getting more opportunities, and obviously having I think that they need to add more to their cast. I think because for the episodes, again, this is like, it really reminds me of the Singapore version, except they did it five actors on 52. These guys did 15 to 20 on 52. If they're going to continue that, I would like to see them double that cast size for sure, just to bring in some more help with the various amounts of characters that get introduced. But we'll see where they go with it.
Yeah, if not, at least like 0.5 more people. Like half.
Right. So we'll kind of see what direction they take, and I'm hopeful we hear something about movie 24 on the obviously that's going to be Bang Zoom, but gosh, I hope something comes out about 24 because it's been done for a while.
No, it's funny,
just collecting dust.
Not Professor C. Joe B sent me a Bang Zoom like. Like anyone can go sign up for it or whatever. He goes, it's a shame they're not doing it for Conan. I'm like, why would they do it for Conan when they're sitting on literally a pile of films?
Yeah.
They're sitting on at least like three or four films right now, like done. And it's like, do something with them.
Well, what films do you think are done?
Well, I know 18 and I know 24. I know those are both done, but movie 25 has been out for a long period of time.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if we get that this holiday. I really would not be. It's just weird. If we're going to get that before movie 24, there's problems to be had. And all three of those films involve terrorism, so just give it up. Just give us the films. Despite the world wars that have extremely calmed down in the sense of publicness. I mean, it's still going on, don't get me wrong, but like it's not the only thing the media is talking about anymore. Like, I feel like 18 and 24 should be it's no longer COVID's the problem. And I feel like it's time. The most scaredy cat company in the world of hurting people's feelings have moved on. So, and that being Nintendo, I think it's time that, TMS, I do think it's TMS that's holding them back. I don't think it's Bing Zoom. I think it's just them kind of feeling uncomfortable, to put it out there. But I mean, when you get three films back to back involving terrorism, and the first two were being held back for that reason, it kind of makes sense for the third to fall in that category. But I wouldn't be surprised if we got 25 this holiday. And with as big as 26 hit in the box office, I wouldn't be shocked if that's guaranteed to get a dub either.
Yeah, because it's just done too well not to at this point, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, and I would not be surprised if 25 and 26 were both recorded recently done with like the movie in its production phases for like the Japan release, like they did for 24.
Mm-hmm.
Like I would suit, and that those are actually maybe even done, and been done. I would not at all be surprised if that was the case. Because they were kind of moving into that worldwide market of getting the dubs done.
Yeah.
They haven't announced any panels for Anime Expo so far, like TMS. Have they?
I don't know. I have not been
because the only one that we know is the one where they're doing the open auditions for Bang Zoom. But other than that, they haven't announced anything, and it's, I think, basically a month away. I think last time before movie 20 when the Azure the Enforcer released in Anime Expo, back in the day, they only had like, I think, a 2 week notice before the actual release.
Yeah, because I got my hands on it like in between all that like commotion like around that time. Like as soon as it was shown, I had it. And it's weird because they did I believe 3 movies that way. They did Zero the Enforcer, Crimson Love Letter, and the episode 1 remake special. I don't know if they did Darkest Nightmare or not, but I know that they did those 3. And I'm still, to this day, I believe that we're getting it, but also I don't know when. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is what they use for that period of time. Is I do feel like we're still going to get that the disappearance case of Conan Natagawa, like that special. If we got episode 1 remake special, it looks like they're, it's a cheaper license to get, a singular film than get a batch of episodes. And I don't think those are necessarily being licensed out by TMS. Like I don't think they're funding that necessarily. They might be, but I think their goal were the movies. So I don't know, but I would like to see that personally. Yeah. Any other main topics that you guys have?
Well,
I will say I know the big one, obviously, but as for small note, I mean, the fact that the manga is now readily available through the Viz app is just absolutely huge, for sure.
And I like to think that is in the gearing to not only push Conan more, but I think that's kind of also a showing tale, like we're nearing the ending point, and they want that, because like I said, when this show ends, even normal like news outlets, even in America, will be kind of covering that's like huge monumental thing ending. It's just worth anyone's time to sit down and talk about, oh, there's a 30+ years series that finally came to an end. Like, that's going to be all over the place, and I feel like that's just kind of a way to have everyone caught up. But also, like I said, since Conan's conception in the U.S. with the mangas, he's been on the top of the Washington Post every single time. For best-selling. So it's interesting to see, and it's a huge milestone for it. But I do think that there's more like there than just, oh, we're releasing this now. I feel like there's more meaning behind it, though.
Definitely from that perspective. And then obviously Joe B, nobody, I don't know if anybody else should cover this because you have the most information on this, obviously.
Right. This is something that we didn't expect to come out. So we actually got another dub in the same year of getting a EMS dub from Macias Group. And this is, funnily enough, from India. And I didn't see this coming. Like, even if we ever got Conan in India, we would only get it in 4 regional languages usually, which would be Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and then another language as well. But for some reason, there's a channel in India that opened like 2 years ago, so they're brand new. They've only done like I think 20 episodes of Avatar, like the first season of TMNT 2012, and do other Indian shows and other stuff. So this is their first foray into the whole anime section. So they've only been there for 2 years. They're not on many many services, TV providers. They're on the major ones now. But this is their first time tackling a dub like this, and they've done it in 12 languages, which is really big. Like, it's so huge. I didn't see them ever doing something like this, but to see them actually do this dub was very surprising. So first off, this is not a complete dub. That means it's still ongoing. They're actively dubbing episodes as well as we speak. Like they started dubbing like 2 months before like airing. We know that they were dubbing like even uh as far as I think March. That's like when we got our first picture of like people dubbing in the studio. So they've been doing this for a while. It started off as like just 2 hours a day on a weekday. You would get like a bunch of episodes. But now it's moved on from like just 2 hours a day to 4 hours a day, which is really cool. And we just finished our Detective Conan marathon like just last week. Oh, yeah, but what do you guys think about this English voice cast? Because I'm sure, uh, because America's voice cast in their dubbing industry has been going on for years. I believe India's
Right.
English voice dubbing industry just started like I think just last year, to be honest, like in the anime sphere of things. Like I'm sure Apira remembers me showing him Demon Slayer and other stuff. So potentially, I hope this is not as bad as that potential, because that was really, you know what? I'm just not gonna say it, but this is at least a bit better than that, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't say that it's like America's on a different level in terms of dubbing. Like, you guys have perfected English dubbing. So what do you guys like after coming from something as good as that, like American dubbing that's been going on for years? Yeah.
It's a very easy but also complicated answer, at least for me.
Yeah.
Because I actually miss the more classic way we used to dub anime compared to how we do it now. Because now, like, even it leaks in the Bang Zoom version of Conan,
Yeah.
and that's where they try to sound very anime,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not how I feel like you should be dubbing anime. I get it. You're trying to match the energy, but like I feel like we're not from Japan. Stop trying to cater to us like we are Japan. I understand a lot of people like it that way because it's like, hey, I want the source material, and I can appreciate that. But there are just sometimes like when you hear someone try to sound too anime, and I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
But I feel like my main problem with the India dub that they're doing in English, I have like very high OCD in the sense of like when they call Kaido Kid the cat burglar or
Cat
something,
burglar.
and I'm like, or Kid the cat burglar or something, like whatever, like that drives me insane because, for example, I watch Clannad and Clannad the After Story in Japanese, even when I was back in the day of preferring to watch things in English, and the voice cast was fine, but they said one of the main characters' name wrong, and it bothered me, and I said I can't, and I had to watch it in Japanese. And that's, like I said, it's one of the main problems I have with Masu Group and Conan, but I'll continue watching it because Conan in English. That I have a soft spot for Conan, so I feel that's like my main problem with the India dub is just those same inconsistencies drive me up the wall. So it's not that it's necessarily bad. It's just those little things drive me nuts to where I'm like, I can't actively sit down and enjoy this. That's just me. I don't think it's a bad dub though, in the sense of like voices and stuff and how much that they're pumping out at an effective rate. Like it's actually very surprising. They've already passed Funimation. Like, granted, they're skipping filler for the most part, but it's impressive.
Yeah.
I really will give it that. Kind of like how you can see with Masia Group, they're clearly all taken in like one takes. And and you can tell. And sometimes it's only needed with one. And I don't feel like necessarily that you get that same vibe with the Indian dub all the time either. And with the rate that they're pumping out, they have to be doing a lot of stuff in one take because that's a lot to to go through if not. But it's impressive regardless, because it doesn't, like, I would say, hurt it that bad if they are doing things in one takes. Like, I feel like they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they're very
Especially like you said, if it's their first, like it's impressive for being your first. Like if that's like their intro to the scene.
Yeah,
I
this
would say
is-
that they got off on a better foot than we did. Like,
Yeah, what about you, Professor?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think it does actually quite well, in the sense of, I think that their knowledge of the series is somewhat limited, which I think impacts it to a certain degree. As far as the overall performances, as it goes, I think it's actually quite good. Now, it is a little bit different watching, over here and hearing. I mean, this is like what, the fourth or fifth dub we've seen of some of these same episodes to a certain degree. So it's like, that obviously, we look at it a little different because it does sound a little different, obviously. But for what they have and the knowledge that they have of the series, I think they've done quite well with it. I hope that they just continue to get an understanding of their characters and understand their backstories more, because I think that'll further, influence their performances if they get some more backstory on it as well.
Yeah.
like the more that they spend with their character too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, like one thing about this stuff that I enjoy is that they aren't just like, when they do this stuff, they aren't just taking like just the voice actors from one dub. Like, if you look at Crunchyroll, they just use all the Hindi voice actors to do the English voices. But as we know with like Merlin, yeah, so the voices here actually aren't taken all from the Hindi voices. Like, we know Conan isn't from the Hindi one, and we do know the voices for Ayumi and the voice for Hybra, who are all different, like aren't from the Hindi voices. And they're even, what I realized is some of the voices are picked out from the other dubs, which is interesting. So they're cherry picking voices from other dubs, adding new people. So it always feels a bit fresh. So they're not limited to the 10 or 12 people, like how all the other regional dubs are. So they might have like, other dubs might have like a bunch of like 20 people or something. But these people can, like, because they have the resources to, they can just pick out from any other language. And as long as,
I would say, I wonder, since you know how this is being done in multiple languages for India, I'm kind of wondering if, like, let's say like one of like the main language dubs are actually like, they'll translate that script into English as a base, and I wonder if that's how Kid the Cat Burglar happened, just from like lost in translation.
Yeah, so it
Like,
could potentially be that, but when I watched the episode with the Japanese subtitles, and it almost matched word for word. So I'm not sure like how or where this Kid the Cat Burglar came from. Like, literally, like I like, the subtitles almost matched it perfectly. There were a few instances where a word was changed for another word, but for the most part, the subtitles were almost accurate. It was some places, to fit the lip flaps, they would like change it up a bit, but for the most part, like, I'm not sure if they copied it. I wouldn't say they copied it. I would say maybe the translation is almost literal when you like translate it from Japanese to English. So that might be it. But this was like a fan sub that was available online for the original series. So the Japanese video, I was just like playing both at the same time to just see how it syncs up. There is a bit of censorship though. That's what I've noticed. Like, I'm not sure if you guys have seen the episode where they go to the movie theater and stuff, and that one has a lot of smoking, which they just blurred out the smoking stuff. And in the episode that came out on Thursday, which was the Sonoko summer case, they cut out a lot. Like, I would say at least 5 minutes of this episode. But that's mostly because they want to censor it. They don't want to show a lot of it, but at least they're keeping the main thing in, which is uh the gore and stuff from the deaths and all are still are still intact. So that's not changed at all. But
Well, that part is that part's good. I mean,
Yeah.
but and then you've seen, obviously you've had an opportunity to view it, in multiple languages,
Oh,
as
yeah.
you've kind of looked at it. What and I know Tamil, you and I talked about that, was really looking like the most polished in the beginning. Has your position changed at all on that, or does it, or how would you rank it if you had to pick like your top 3 or 4
Man.
out of the 12 languages?
Yeah, so I actually was really enjoying the Tamil one, like when it started. Like the voice of Conan, actually the voice of Conan in Shinichi, I'm not sure if they're brothers, but they both have similar last names and similar names. So at least they both are related. So Shinichi and Conan's voice actors in the start. So that was really promising. And Conan's performance, like Shinichi's performance, was praised by everyone. Like in the first episode in Tamil, like a lot of Tamil fans who watched it, like even videos on YouTube, people were saying that Shinichi was a standout in the first episode. The second episode came around, and Conan, he's actually voiced by the voice actor for Naruto and Tamil. So he did a good job at maybe you guys remember, like when the second episode came out, I said that I think Shinichi's voice actor is doing the thought voice for Conan, but it was actually the voice of Conan's voice actor who was doing both the thinking voice, which was like lower and sounded more akin to Shinichi, and had a Conan voice which was playful, and then he had another Conan voice which was like for deductions. So he was able to easily switch between the three, and you could like hear one line like with him thinking, one line with him speaking, and then him being playful. And one of the best scenes that I would say showcase that was like Kaito Kid like coming down from the sky, and then him thinking like in his Shinichi voice like, okay, he might be 20 or 20 or 30 years old, and that scene was perfect because then he like lits up the firework and then goes up, and then he's into kid mode, which showcased it so well. And then after coming from a scene like that to the new voice, which is basically a voice changer. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like a lot of people aren't a fan of that as well, but that's mostly because of scheduling conflicts with the voice actor. He did like let me know that he had a lot of time constraints, and because right now Naruto is also dubbing at the same time, so he has to do that. Uh, and because this is an ongoing dub, like Conan is an ongoing dub, it just keeps on going. So I can understand why he couldn't like come to Conan immediately. I hope he can come back after Naruto's done. But in terms of like the dubs, other dubs as well. So I've heard Marathi is pretty good. Gujarati as well. I heard Bengali is the funniest one out of the bunch because they literally changed gins and vodka's names to Nandu, Bandu, or something around those lines. Which was yeah, so that was freaking crazy, and I I couldn't like I didn't believe it at first until I heard it. And I think I even showed you guys the clip of Conan like just saying I I'm Conan Kudo or something along.
Conan Kudo, yeah. Conan Kudo.
So all that was like in the Bengali side of stuff, and
Yep.
or like all that around that side, around those languages. So one thing that I noticed is that all the languages like Marathi, Telugu, Marathi, Bengali, Hindi, and English all use the Kit Kat burglar, but other
Wow.
languages like Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, all used Kaito Kid, and they're sticking to the Conan names. Like they've done a really good job at sticking to the names perfectly. So I'm not sure, but maybe they have someone who's actually who actually knows a bit of Conan, who's actually getting all the names right, or at least an anime fan who wants to stick to, the actual stuff, which I
just
think
someone who has like a good Japanese as their language.
yeah. Maybe not like Japanese as a language, but who respects, like, if you ask an anime fan, like, what do you prefer, the American pronunciation or the Japanese pronunciation of a name, they would prefer, oh, I'm gonna watch it subbed, maybe someone like that. But I think there might be an otaku hidden among them.
But see, now I was going to ask you, didn't there used to be a Hindi dub back, back years ago? Because you were talking about, I thought it was a Hindi dub.
Oh yeah,
that had ended in the 170s to 180s. Did any of the characters from that dub come back?
Okay, so we did have the dub back in the day, which was around 50 episodes, so we didn't even get Kaito Kid.
Oh, okay.
So this aired in, I think, 2000, around 2005 or 2007, I believe. So it aired on two channels called Hangama, which aired the Hindi dub, and another channel called Jetix, which aired the Tamil dub of Detective Conan. So the reason it was aired on both of these channels is because Jetix, as you know, is now Disney XD, and Hangama is also a sister channel to Disney Channel, which means the Disney dub of Conan. That's really funny to say, but
I'm not used to that.
Yeah, Conan is Disney in India, or was Disney, like, for a few years. So that dub was faithful, really faithful. It went like episodically throughout everything.
Yeah.
Did the intros, outros, dubbed the intros and outros, and all that was done to the book. So, as Apira used to say before, like, they might have a contract to do like so and so and so. So I believe they had the same thing. But the reason it went off air is not because it wasn't popular. The reason it went off air was because of parents complaining about the show, which is pretty funny. So there is a board of parents in India who filed complaints saying that Conan is not suitable for kids, which made Disney afraid, which then made them send it away, which then made them actually stop it completely. So that's one reason why we lost Conan. But in terms of this new dub, there aren't any characters that are reprising their roles either. Like, even the Netflix dub that we got like last year in Hindi did not have any of the same characters. I think people did,
Oh, wow.
yeah, I think at first people thought that, like, when we heard the news, people expected Netflix voice actors to come back for the Hindi dub, but it looks like they didn't. And they've actually been doing a bit of recasting too. Like, the voice of Jin actually changed recently from in Hindi. And people aren't a fan of that as well. In terms of this dub, they have been doing like skipping a lot of episodes, which is understandable. Like, they want to get through a lot of episodes, but one thing that we think is the reason why they're skipping a lot of episodes is because this is just what I think happened, is that ETV saw that Conan is a long-running franchise, and they've seen Shin-chan, which is like 1,000+ episodes. They've seen Doraemon, which is also a 1,000+ episode series. And those two are the most famous series in India. Like, if you ask any kid on the street, like, what's their favorite cartoon, it's either going to be Doraemon, Shin-chan, or something else. Like, these two are like holding the Indian market like to the throat, literally. So I believe ETV wanted like a series like that. So Conan literally ticked the boxes of being a Japanese show that is 1,000+ episodes long, that has 30-minute episodes, that is really popular. I believe that's literally what happened. Like, I feel like this is the opposite of what Massey's group is doing, because 80% of what they're doing is filler, and then like 20% is manga based.
Well, and it could be the model of how things can go moving forward. And I wonder if that particular what's happening, it could somehow translate to how it's presented over here, as far as how they skip the filler side and go to the manga side. But as far as the reception, I mean, it sounds as if the ratings and the reception has been very strong. If they're willing to do marathon weekends, add an extra hour, doing contests, I mean, it sounds like the ratings must be really strong. I mean, what's been the overall reception from individuals? Like, what's everybody saying, about the whole ordeal? I mean, because there's different dubs, so obviously there's different inputs for depending on who watches what, but what's that overall reception like over there for it?
Yeah. So as far as ratings go, the first week was average. The second week was also just basically average. Like there was not much to be seen. Like a lot of people were reporting that week 2 was just okay, but from week 3 onwards, we've just been hearing like the TRP, that's the viewership, has been just increasing, and I believe like it's we can see that because they've just added extra hours. They keep they did the marathon that weekend, and even actually they did have a poll on their Instagram page like last week, and it was like, what did you enjoy this weekend? And it was like SpongeBob or Conan, and then so out of this poll, like, who do you think would win, SpongeBob or Conan? Like, generally, like, if someone had a poll, like,
well, in America, it probably would be SpongeBob over.
Of course, in America, yes, but I mean, over there, I would fair to say Detective Conan mollywopped SpongeBob.
Yeah, but like, how much do you think the difference would be? Like 50-50?
Well, I'm just trying to compare our country over. Like, for me personally, the first like 3 or 4 seasons of SpongeBob are golden. Everything else is trash. So I feel like if you guys are doing a lot of modern stuff and you're taking it as it comes out, also, I feel like SpongeBob would have to be viewed as trash too, even over there. Like, that's how I would look at it. So my guess is like by like 90% Conan like wallops.
Oh yeah, he sweeped like SpongeBob only has 12%.
Yeah, okay, so I was pretty damn close.
Damn.
Yeah,
pretty close.
So Conan,
I was going to say 70-30, but damn, that's quite a deal.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to me that makes a lot of sense. I even think it's hard because I know a lot of people whose like parents like will watch SpongeBob like all the time, and like they love it because they raised their kids on it, they grew up on it, and I get the kind of attachment you can have, but like I grew up on it. I'll quote the old stuff all the time with friends and coworkers, but like the new, I can't, like, I would rather blow my temples out before watching modern day SpongeBob. So like to me, like that's not shocking at all.
Yeah.
I would like to say Conan could do the same here.
Yeah.
If everybody was watching modern day SpongeBob, because a lot of people have not watched SpongeBob in such a long time, so then they picture what they did like, which was like pure gold. Because SpongeBob used to be, it was originally written as an adult show. Like I don't know if you know that.
Like I think like SpongeBob is popular here as well, but I think especially on like ETV, SpongeBob airs on Nickelodeon and ETV as well. But I think
I feel like it's popular in every country, and the only reason why I say that is because I can't tell you how many movies I've watched in either other languages or like even if they're like United States movies, like Karate Kid, for example, using that as an example. They're speaking a different language, and then you have SpongeBob, like there'll be like a little cameo of them watching TV and they're speaking in their native language. And it has to be popular enough for those countries to be using that, showing that, like even in Japan, like SpongeBob's pretty big in Japan.
Yeah.
And I just think it's just one of those like multi-language things that are like it's pretty big everywhere. I don't get why it's big everywhere, because I don't get why it's big here still. So I think it all comes with iconicness. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
I think like Conan's only still thriving today from our side is because, you know, when it did come over, it was still an international hit series, and if it stayed on top of the Washington Post the entire time of its run, I would say it never was not an international hit series still, like, just by taking, because I don't think we actually left the mark.
Yeah.
So I feel like Conan's like iconicness has saved his ass in the United States.
Well, and now it's a $1 billion franchise
Yeah.
at the box office too, and that's a huge accomplishment for it as well. With the most recent film pushing it over that threshold. But I think that what's happening in India right now with the 12 language, I think it's probably the biggest thing that's ever happened for Conan.
Oh yeah.
Probably, you know, overall as a, you know, outside of the original airing in Japan, but overall, because you're getting so many different languages, so many different, you know, ways of exposure, and people can, you know, get on a VPN and watch it and enjoy it. And you know, it's especially if they're taking it, you know, all the way to the current side, or they have intention to do that. I think that's a fantastic. I mean, who could ask for more?
But I feel
on
like
that side,
besides the 12 dubs, I think the other thing that helps, because I think Conan would have done a lot better here as well if they kind of took that same approach that India's doing, because to them, they're almost making it like the Clash of Red and Black, but all the time.
Right.
Because everything is constantly manga case, and to these people, like, when it's interesting to see an anime, you know, and you're seeing it consistently, and something's always going down, I'd be tuning in every single time. I'm like, let me see what Conan gets into today. And I think that's very interesting, and I would have loved to have seen us take that approach, because maybe if we did, I mean, I understand it would have costed a whole lot more money back in the day, because Funimation would have been paying for it, to have done, and who knows if TMS would have even budged to have let it go that way, because they were very strict about how it was going to be done, even though they weren't funding it. You know, they were still very strict on like how certain things had to go down. And so I think it's very interesting that they're taking that approach, and I think that also helps it in a way. And I do think that can get them actually to catching up.
Yeah. And plus, like, we get every day, like almost every, like, it used to be every day, like an hour of Conan. Now it's like every alternate day. Like, having an hour gives people to watch like the entire story, and not like have to wait too long. So it's really engaging. Like, you get to watch a complete story every day, and a complete arc every day. If it's a 2 hour special, and they're not gonna cut it up, they're just gonna air it entirely, like the entire 2 hours. So that really helps it a lot. The only thing that I wish they didn't do is like skip the endings, which is in some episodes, like in the Hybrid episode, they don't show the floppy disks. Like, you don't get to see the conclusion to that. Like, you're just gonna like have to live with the fact that they never see the floppies. Well, yeah.
Why that can harm. Sometimes in the beginning of the next episode they go over that anyway.
Yeah.
Not all the time.
Yeah.
But like, it hasn't necessarily ruined my enjoyment, because when I first started watching the Funimation, I was very new to anime at the time, and I didn't know about post-credit scenes. So I didn't know until like halfway through the Funimation number, and I went back and I watched every single post-credit scene. But you know, if that didn't damper my enjoyment, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it does kind of suck, because it does enhance. And some of the best moments in Conan are in those post-credit scenes. And I would know, because I binged the show from episode 1 to 744, almost like straight, back in the day. And then I would like wait until there was like 14 episodes at a time, and then I'd binge watch those. And I remember there were times where you'd watch 14 episodes straight, and nothing happened like manga wise. But then like the final episode in your account that you are watching, only in the post credit scene, some big bombshell went down, you know. And those are like some of my favorite moments in Conan, and so I get that will suck. So I hope that they one day they fix that, because especially later,
it's
like in the 700s going on.
I think it's actually dubbed. Like the ending scenes are dubbed already. Like in like some of the BTS images that we saw or videos that we saw, we did see a brief glimpse of like the ending sequence, like the ending theme, and then the end credit scene, like starting right after. So they have dubbed it like in other languages. It's just that they're chopping it up to fit the time slots. They want to air as many episodes like as possible. Yeah. Like within an hour, they'll fit like 3 episodes. Yeah.
Did they is the Hindi dub being received better than in the beginning? Because I know you said people were complaining that it sounded like a fan dub in the beginning. Are people kind of over that now, or is that not a theme that's disappeared?
I would say people have gotten used to it. Like the voice actors have improved a bit since like the start. But I feel like people are just getting used to the new voices now. Like they have been having a few changes here and there. Some for the better, some for the worse. But still, the Hindi dub, I would say it's not the preferred choice for other speaking languages. They would prefer to watch it in their language, which they prefer. But Hindi is spoken like mostly throughout India. Like I would say 80% of India speaks Hindi. So they're for them it's like really good for them to like listen. They prefer to listen in Hindi, but they prefer the dubbing of other languages, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So because the thing about the Hindi dub is it's spoken like how you speak usually. Like if you see the English Hindi dub, sorry, I mean the Indian English dub, it doesn't sound as fluent as someone would actually speak. There are a lot of pauses. They drag their lines a bit too long, which you can see even in like Bang Zoom's dub sometimes. But I think India hasn't cracked the code of dubbing English yet. There is a way that they can crack it. I would say that this dub is doing a good job at being consistent, but they still have to crack the code of doing a good English dub in India, which I believe with 1,000 episodes, they're definitely going to have enough time to like figure out how to do it. Yes, exactly. Like,
well, plus they've improved. I mean, I saw a little bit of 129 in it. I mean, I thought it sounded really good, honestly.
Oh my god, yeah! Like the bad guy in 129 was my favorite out of like the entire thing. Like he had a good voice. His accent was also pretty good. They did a really good job with 129.
If I could understand the Tamil dub, from what I've heard, I probably would watch that, because I even just the clip. I can't understand what they're saying at all, but when you did that, you had that comparison on your channel.
Oh yeah.
About the different dubs, and I thought they did a really solid job as well. I didn't really understand why Hindi was getting such a bad rap, and the only reason I keep harking back to it, I do think it's probably one of the most important dubs of the 12 languages they're recording. Because if that's the native language people are watching it in, it needs to sound good and be presentable. But I honestly, when you were doing the comparisons, I didn't necessarily think the criticism was warranted. I thought it sounded really good. So I don't, but maybe that's just from my perspective. I don't live there. And if they've also been exposed to the other dub years ago, that could influence that thought process as well for them.
Yeah.
So I understand that.
No, and I get that too, because when we got the Bing Zoom at first, I hated it. And I think I was just literally impressioning on the Funimation dub and how much that has changed. And, when you lose Jerry Jewell, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And I feel when we got the Masio group's dub, I was literally on my knees, like, give me back Bing Zoom, please. And and the Masia group, really grew into their own. It's the one part I still hate to this day about my entire ordeal is I hated Dr. Agasa the entire time.
Mm.
And when it came down to Criminal Hanzawa and the more recent stuff, I'm like, this is it. You've hit Dr. Agasa. Like, I think in Criminal Hanzawa, he was perfect. I was like, this is it. It's not exactly what I wanted in terms of the accent, but like you hit a sweet spot. Like I'm happy. I like him. And then in the freaking Masia's group, he's like a whole different ethnicity. Like he's like, it bothers me. I like that this one has an accent comparing to where the other guys started with Bang Zoom, but like it draws me right out because it's more different than anything we've ever heard for the character, like in any language. So I totally get the feeling between like the two Hindi dubs and stuff like that in terms of criticism.
Yeah,
because
like we literally got a good Hindi dub last year with Netflix. So coming right off the bat of that, like people have had a good Disney dub, a good Netflix dub, which they've been listening to for years. And then after coming from that to this, it sounds different. Like that's the main thing.
Right.
It's like different voices, different voice actors, like from the general stuff that you hear from normal Hindi dubs. And like one thing that I did hear is like I believe Hyper is played by a really old person, which at first I didn't prefer it, but the more I heard it, it sounded like, because Hyper is mature, so she needs a better voice than Ayumi, for example. Like Ayumi would be playful, but Hyper would be more serious. So to have someone who is older makes sense, but I don't think they have the same. They're not able to fluctuate easily. That's what I've heard. Like Conan doesn't fluctuate like the detective mode, kid mode. I've heard other dubs do it well. Like Tamil did it really well. I've heard that it's not Telugu. The Gujarati did it good as well. Marathi did it well. So other dubs have been doing the fluctuating well, which is something that Hindi hasn't been able to hit as far as I've heard. Not even if it does, it doesn't hit as well. Plus the older dubs might have done it better. Like having Conan be able to switch modes easily, which is something maybe that might be like making people not feel as attached to the Hindi dub. But I have seen on like Instagram, the comment section of ETV is like the Hindi dub is really good. So there are people who enjoy it. Like I believe those people are watching this for the first time. Like they're not influenced by the previous dubs. So this sounds really.
It just seems it seems like in general, and I think that Conan would benefit from this, and I know there's a big cost to it, but the constant dub changes, just overall, it almost seems like TMS would be better by forming almost like a coalition of studio, like a Detective Conan Studios, and you have these actors for these dubs that are just locked in to those characters to kind of minimize the changing, because I think that could really damage the series long term, because people become nostalgic for what they've grown up with. So there's people, for example, there's kids or there's our generation that grew up with Funimation, but now their children might be watching Masius and Bang Zoom, but then in 5 years, I hope it's still Masius, but who knows, it could be something else in 5 years and could damage the brand. And then there's some confusion over that, because now there's a generation of kids watching who, the Masius dub in English is it for them, and obviously in India, the Hindi dub is, what they grew up on. And now it's, it's just different.
While I feel like they could get away with it, with changing one more time, and to be more serious, they would have to be, is the average American does not know what the hell Tubi is. I didn't know what Tubi was till this happened. And I didn't even know that this happened until you said something.
Well, they do now because of the Super Bowl exposure.
Yeah. And when you go to Tubi, the first thing you are looking at ain't Conan. Let's all be real. Like, I definitely don't think there's enough eyes on it to where it would matter. if they changed again, like I don't think a lot of people would notice. Quite frankly, I'm not saying it's a good idea to change. These people are already in their vibe. Let them be. Unless just it's necessary, like they're done, they don't want to do it anymore or whatever. But I do think like making your own team, even if just Team Entertainment was just like, well, I think it was smart that they kept the LA actors as for the main cast. I do think that should have stretched out a bit more. I do think that should have went to like Kybura and Dr. Agasa, like your main forefront characters. And then that way, if you do change studios, it's just your background characters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I will say Gia did a really good job, on Akai's brother there,
And, that's the
or
one
sister,
thing.
I mean, sorry. Oops.
I was about to say, we haven't gotten that yet.
Yeah.
That's the next batch.
Yeah.
But it's the one thing I'm scared for is Akai and Okiya Subaru, because Subaru sounded okay in the flashback that we heard, but Akai sounded like shit. And anything compared to Keith Silverstein's shit, but I mean, like, it was really bad. And it sucks because they're both voiced by the same person, and I feel like that really ruins the illusion. I get Kaido Kid and Jimmy, they're supposed to be similar, but like you were literally supposed to think Akai and Okiya are two separate people. I don't think it's smart having them voiced by the same person.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in English, because in Japanese it's very easy to sound different. I can make like 9 different Japanese tones.
Yeah.
But like and be very vastly different. But in English, you can sometimes at least hear your underlining voice. And I don't think it's a good choice. But I've noticed with Masia Group, the flashbacks have been different than they'll do new takes for the actual current scene when it actually happens. So my praying, hoping is when we get those scenes in English, they're done very differently, or maybe with different actors. I am not a fan of Akai in this dub, and it's hard because he's literally my favorite anime character. So
yeah,
I think it would be smart if they formed their own team in a sense.
Yeah.
It would help the stability, I think, of the series if they did something, because it's just going to confuse the consumer. I mean, we may not think that many people are watching, but the numbers could be quite good, and then at that point, you're causing confusion because people are seeing, and the movies are doing incredibly well, financially. I think doing really well on Right Stuff and Amazon and the digital marketplace. They've done quite well. So now that consumer's becoming confused again, and I that's a little scary for me as a fan.
And if Lupin can do it, Conan can do it. That's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
I think if they just cut filler and they form their own team, no excuses.
Form a studio that focuses, where it brings everything kind of. I mean, obviously you have the licenses in different places, like India and all these other dubs, but at the same point, you have a little bit more control over, who's coming, who's going, what. I mean, because in my head, I've got a restaurant manager background, so in my head, I'm like, wait, what about that? Wait, what about that? What? Anybody can people can notice that, little changes. And that can be, and I'm sure, out of those 12 dubs, and Joby, you might know this better than anybody, how many of those dubs are first time cracks at this,
Yeah, everything other than, yeah.
So, some of those dubs only have one chance to make a good impression, and if they keep swapping it out, they're damaging, that particular dub forever,
Yeah, a lot of fans who are hearing this for the first time are really excited hearing Conan in their language for the first time. A lot of languages in India, they usually dub any foreign project in just 4 languages. So having Conan in other languages makes it the first official dub to release in 10 other languages other than Hindi, Tamil, Telugu, and other stuff. So this is the first time that any anime is being dubbed in their language, and for them to have it in Conan is making them really excited to like have it in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important too,
Mhm.
because like if it wasn't for Funimation's Conan, I would not have. I was not willing to give the brand the chance with that.
Mhm.
And it was everything about it that it speaks to you more when it's in your language.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if I started in Japanese, this show would have had no hell and chance in my heart, like at all. Like I enjoyed the Japanese dub, and I think it's better than what we're getting right now in English, hands down. But I have a guilty pleasure of watching it in English, so I would prefer to watch it just in English.
Mhm.
I think even under the perfect scenario, I was thinking about it the other day. It's like I think I'd watch both, even if Funimation started up again, same voice. I'd probably watch both at this point because now I've become attached to those Japanese voices.
I'll tell you this: I'd probably watch like the finale and both, but if Funimation came back, I would drop Japanese Conan like a bag of hammers. The hell?
You know what? You know what I will say about the dub in India for the English version? They really nailed Kogoro.
Oh yeah, my god, he is amazing. Wow.
They did amazing with him. I'm like, that might be one of the very best I've heard in English, and that was really something.
I would have to listen to them.
Oh,
because like I just like play the link for the first few seconds. So whatever the main audio that they're playing in is the only thing I've heard.
Oh man, you gotta listen to the case. The Baron case is also good, but you should check out the Kogoro reunion one. And that one, he really shows like what he can do. Like he's really good as Kogoro. Like I've been enjoying him. Like I've heard so many dubs, like even like the other languages as well, and Kogoro sounds the best in English. I would even though I prefer the Tamil dub for stuff for like this series, I prefer the English voice for Kogoro and like some other characters.
He's the best.
Yeah.
Do you even say like the best over R. Bruce Elliott?
R. Bruce Elliott is different from the Japanese voice. His take on Kogoro is not the same. I would say this one is a lot more similar to the Japanese, which makes you
the first Japanese for
exactly.
the first one.
It's so
the real one, the real goat.
It gives you like such nostalgia to hear the English voice and to hear the OG Kogoro voice speak in English. That's how
I think my favorite part about the transition between the Kogoros was it was around the time of the episode The Imposter Mori Kogoro. It was like roughly when the voice change happened, and I'm like, that's hilarious.
Well, the original actor said it was really a big regret for him because it was all contract disputes. And he said, I really, he goes, I wish that we were just able to resolve it because he's like, I really miss voicing the character. He goes, if I could do it over again, I would have just, we would have just negotiated better. But he still got 500 episodes worth in there. That's pretty good.
And it's funny how that happens because like you hear Jerry Jewell, if you ask him, if you could voice any character again, who would it be? I forgot what his other one was, but his top two is somebody else in Jimmy Kudo.
Yeah.
So these characters are very fun to be. They have a lot of character, a lot of heart, and especially in the Funimation dub, the funny jokes and stuff that were added, it brings a lot of special charm to the characters. And I feel like I personally needed that charm to fall in love with them. And the one thing I will give Masia Group is I don't know if Team Entertainment isn't watching as hard anymore, or if they just literally know, because since they're not native English speakers, that they know how to weave around them now. I don't know what it is, but they clearly have done something, because the stuff that they're getting away with now is hilarious. Kogoro saying, "I'm red AF." I hate it. Don't ever speak like that again. But it's hilarious. And to my day, my favorite thing is is Ayumi saying, "I like cashews, but not being confused," with zero context. Just threw that out there. And I still, to this day, think they could have made sense if they just had Mitch say something else, like "you're nuts" or something. But though that's the one thing I'm enjoying about the Masias group is it's starting to get a little bit comical, but not for the right reasons. But like, because it's funny because it makes no sense, or it's like that's just too extra. But I love it because it brings back that little bit of Funimation to me, where it has those moments that will make you laugh, and I miss that like a lot. That's why I would drop Japanese Conan for Funimation Conan if it were to come back, like a bag of hammers. Like that boy does not speak Japanese. That Japanese Conan does not exist to me. I'll probably, like I said, watch the ending because I've grown attached to those characters in a sense, and I would like to hear their voice takes and their emotions. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's nice to see these people like pick off where Funimation
Yeah.
left off in like basically 2 weeks. They've literally caught up with Funimation. Like the last episode of the second week was the 100 million yen this one robbery case.
I 100% believe you guys will make it to at least the 500s, if not further.
Oh, we've actually. So this is a rumor, but still, we potentially have 150 episodes already dubbed in English. Sorry, already dubbed, I believe, in Hindi or English, and the other dubs are like still ongoing. Like they're dubbing it still. So we have at least 150 episodes confirmed, and we're already at like 157 or 160 at this point.
And really, what you have to understand is if you have 150 episodes and they've been skipping, would that mean like they're already beyond the actual 150?
So,
or do they just have the license to 150 episodes and then they're just cherry picking what they're actually dubbing?
So potentially, I would think like best case scenario, they have like up to episode 500, and they're just like speeding through to reach as fast as possible. So far they've aired 41 episodes, and they still have that would leave them with at least 90 episodes remaining. Like even if you like split each special into like 30-minute segment, you still have like 90 episodes, which should be enough to cover. Like 40 is like already 150, so 80 would be like 300, and then you might reach up to 400 potentially at this point.
I think it depends on the rating side. As long as it maintains solid ratings, I don't see why it would stop.
And if you get to 400, if they get to that Rand case with the cell phone, and that's the cliffhanger you guys are left on, people will be like, "Give me more," because she's about to find out, and she doesn't. But like that's how you get ratings. End on that episode.
Jeez.
Yeah, I feel like the next evolution of Conan in India is gonna be the movies for sure. Like having them release either on TV, because like Doraemon has had 20 plus movies released on TV and a few released in theaters, and they are knocking it out of the park. Like literally, numbers.
I feel like that's how I'm gonna end up trying to hear your dubs, as if they do a movie, because I think like that's a solid experience. I could sit down, and if I'm not feeling it, I can pop out. But I feel like you're gonna bring the best quality to a movie.
Yeah, I feel like now they've gotten pretty good at doing the dubbing for in English. Like sometimes I just switch over to English and I just listen to it because it's pretty good. Like I watched the latest episode, which was the Police Love Story Part 2, and that was the English dub for that was actually pretty good. Like I was able to sit down and listen to it and watch it. Even like episode 129, Eyebrow was doing a really good job in that, and even the bad guy, the criminal, was also really good. So they've actually been picking up a lot recently. They've started to like get into the groove of like things. Plus they're following the Japanese pretty close, other than Cat Burglar and stuff. So I would say in terms of ratings, if it can keep this up and if it can get more people, like if you take a look at their Instagram page, they have like 2.5 followers, 2.5 thousand followers, and each post gets like 30 likes. But if it's a Conan post, it gets like 150 up to like 300, 400 likes easily.
Damn.
Yeah. so there is like a huge demand for Conan right now, especially for their fans. So I can only see this like growing.
And it's funny because TMS Entertainment like never makes a case closed post unless if it's the one tweet for whatever they're promoting. And sometimes they don't even get that, but they have the nerve to write Home of Detective Conan in their bio. And I think my favorite thing is whenever you see a case closed tweet that's very rare, it might just be like Ron says goodnight or whatever. Almost all the comments are like, whoa, a rare case closed post, or this isn't normal, or who's this chick, like, and it's hilarious. And so it's very interesting to see like another like social media of it, just like they make a Conan post and it's just like, hell yeah, like let's like this.
Like out of the last 9 posts, they have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like half of them is literally Conan. They have like 5 posts that's Conan.
And don't forget that on the 26th, we have that
discotheque.
The discotheque event. So
yeah, potentially some Conan news. Like I believe like even last year they had the Lupin thing. So potentially this year something. Like I believe every big event that they have, they always have Conan.
I feel like the only thing we could honestly see would be if they want to jump the gun and give us movie 24, great. It's about time.
I think it might be Dimensional Sniper, to be honest.
But like I said, I feel like we can get movie 25 first even, but it just feels so weird to get another movie that's not.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's really different because not Bang Zoom, but TMS Entertainment wants to show those movies off first.
Yeah.
And then the Blu-rays come, usually a year after they come out digitally. Yeah. So I don't know if it's too soon, but like I said, all that stuff had to be done for this movie. You know what I mean? Like where it's been ready to go. You're sitting on DVDs, you're sitting on this, that. So I wouldn't be too surprised. But I could also see more than likely if we get a straight DVD announcement from Discotheque. The only thing I could really see it being is that other Conan special, because it's a special. It's something that TMS Entertainment's not gonna air digitally, most likely, at least not right away, because you can't find episode 1 digitally like that easily, readily available. Yeah. And what's really interesting, actually, on Amazon, they took down a lot of them. I don't know if they're back up yet. But they took down the ability to watch like the Lupin crossovers. They took down The Darkest Nightmare. So it like when I made that tweet of like, or that Facebook post of like, go check out Jody and blah 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 blah, I had to post the DVD link to an Amazon because it wasn't there digitally. It would just say unavailable. So that could also just be a bad sign in general, but I do think they'll release what they're sitting on. But I don't know if they just want to do like straight to DVD or have Discotheque be the one to announce it. So it'll be very interesting. But you gotta also understand we've had like 3 or 4 where we thought we were getting something. So
yeah.
But
I will say it's cool, and I noticed this in talking to Gia that the Macias group is really they really do respect the characters that they're voicing and have an understanding of the characters or the voices for Bang Zoom. A lot of them are decorated and obviously have really solid reputations. So I think they feel that following in those footsteps is a big responsibility in a lot of ways. And I will tell you, I was very impressed on the Macias side with Jason Kesser's performance for Heiji and for Amuro. I thought he did a really good job.
I didn't like it at first, but Amuro has finally grown on me. My main gripe with Amuro now is just people say his name right, please? Or in the same sentence, say it differently twice from the same character. Drives me up the wall.
I just say call him Armor All, you know.
I know. And if you want to call him Amuro, if you want to call him that, stick to that. Don't go back and forth. And say the same thing with Sarah, like, or Sierra. Like, I almost call her Sarah now because of this stuff.
God damn it.
But
yeah.
It's very interesting, and I think also with the Miami voice actors, with them just having this, they want to do well with it because the Miami actors, they don't get treated right, or they don't get cared for, and a lot of people hate when they get a Miami dub, and I feel like when you have characters like this too, it makes you want to try harder, because it's like, if we do this right, we might actually get some, recognition.
Well, on a property that's this beloved too, it's not just like any other property. I mean, there's actual towns named, with these characters in them, and train stations and airports, and I mean, it's like, it's a whole nother level. So I think the heaviness of that's you're right,
Yeah, but I just wish it stayed with Bang Zoom, just in the sense of, like, how you said, like, it was a big thing for these actors. I still believe, to this day, the most magical moment in Conan's English history was when they showed Zero the Enforcer behind closed doors, and all of the main voice actors stepped forward and pretty much virtually all held hands and, like, took a bow, and they said how proud they were of these characters, and they each posted a unique render of their character. That all kind of had, like, matching backgrounds, in a sense, like a scheme, and they said who they were voicing, and I think that was, one, very self-aware, just in the sense of, if you follow one certain actor, you're going to see this, and that's just good for marketing, more marketing than TMS Entertainment's ever done, and they probably told them to do this because each one had a unique render that matched, and I feel like, those had to be handed out. But I think it's I still think to this day that is the most magical moment in Conan English history. It's just that presentation of all the voice actors just coming forward together.
And for Xander Mobus, I mean, growing up and watching it, he said he grew up watching it. So, you're growing up watching R. Bruce Elliott, voice the character. And then all these years later, you're getting to obviously have your opportunity at it. So that one stuck out to me a lot.
And my heart melted in movie 23 when he goes, "Back to the booze." And I'm like, oh my God, R. Bruce Elliott. Like, I heard the R. Bruce Elliott in it, and also just the Funimation and style, because that was actually way more ad-libbed, like in Funimation style compared to what the Japanese was.
And it had Kevin M. Connolly coming back too to play a major role in the film, which it was nostalgic as well.
But like I said, I have a hard time with that movie. I watched it a couple times recently, because it was originally my most least watched Conan film. But I've seen it with a few people and stuff. Recently, even like when I was on my trip, we watched it, and like I said, my main gripes with that movie is the Conan and Arthur thing, and Rachel being dumb enough to buy that.
That was pretty dumb. Yeah, that was pretty stupid.
And even like my friend who originally introduced me to Conan, but he doesn't watch Conan. And when he watched it, he looked at me like, really? And the other thing is, there's a woman named Rachel in the film, and hearing Conan and Kogoro talk about Rachel and not referring to Rachel drives me up the wall. So
yeah,
it'll just be interesting just to see how much these change, especially when they're done by two different studios. Like the movies with Bang Zoom and Masia Group. It's just very interesting to see their directive takes. So I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see what our next batches are on both sides.
Yeah.
But movie 24, when we get that, it's going to be very different to what we've been getting, because it's going to date back to like Zero the Enforcer quality, because it was done around that time. So it'd be very interesting to see these characters like regress back. That's like my one thing about like if we do restart and we start back at episode 1 and just do manga episodes, by the time you get up to the 800s and stuff or 900s, you'd be like, what the fuck? And so it'd be very interesting to see just that regression when we do actually get movie 24. I don't know. It'll be very interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
But
there isn't any news about the Iron Submarine so far, right? Like in terms of like releasing or anything like in a con.
Well, no. You know,
yeah, I think
I feel with the way that Conan goes is it's usually like the digitals that we'll get, and then a year later we'll get the Blu-rays.
Yeah.
I feel if Japan doesn't even have the Blu-ray, we're not in sight immediately. I would say anytime after October, September time, because that's when they're going to get it. I feel then we can open the door to that possibility. I feel like right now the only things on the table is 18, 24, 25, and that's it for now. In terms of what's on the table, I'm not saying that they haven't dubbed this movie yet, because they could have dubbed 26 by now. I'm just saying I don't think we'll get it until the Blu-ray at least exists in Japan. So then a year later we could get the Blu-ray.
I'm so what is it? Envious of the Middle East. they got all the movies last month. I mean, they got 26 last month, like in theaters. And now France is going to be getting it soon.
The part that bothers me about movie 24 is other countries have seen this English dub, and it bothers me, like Singapore.
Yeah, Singapore, France, and a few other countries as well.
And I'm like, that bothers me. I'm like, it's existed, it's been in the wild. At least someone leak it to us, Like
I know, right? Like, hey, is somebody sitting there with the camera in the theater? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, you could find it out there like that if you genuinely dedicated your life to looking for it. But I got better things to do than that.
I mean, TMS is still releasing it in like to this day. Like TMS is still releasing it. Like Cuba got it, like I believe in February, the English dub for 24. 24. The Dimensional Sniper. Sorry, not Dimensional Sniper. The movie 24. Yeah, they received the English dub this February.
But the reason why I could really see 24 actually being at this show is September is a very prime time for Conan dubs for the Blu-rays. And if, like I said, if we've been sitting in 24 for so long, those Blu-rays probably already are made, just waiting for an actual announcement to ship out. I would not be surprised if those were the September slots. I really wouldn't, because most of Conan has released in September, except for like movie 23, and when I called that would come out May something, and it did. But the average has been September. So I would not be surprised if it was actually here.
Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't done like a theatrical release, especially after movie Zero the Enforcer like got sold out in 30 minutes, like literally.
Well, that was because it was done behind closed doors, and when you have a huge post going out being like, "How would you like to see Detective Conan in English?" like, take my money.
But that was kind of taken out of context though in a lot of ways though, because when I had interviewed somebody that had went to the screening and they only literally had 100 tickets available.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
that was the only reason. I mean,
and Conan always sold well in the United States. You have to understand that it always sold well.
Yeah,
it just didn't make the Dragon Ball Z numbers that it would cost to make it. If it was a normal show, it would still be on the air to today. That was the breaking factor. So I guarantee you 100 Funimation Conan fans, it doesn't take long to pull that out. You know what I mean? Like, there's let's say if you were in America, there's 3 of us right here that would have done it. You know what I mean? It's very easy to pull 100 out.
That's true.
Or just so, and people that are just going to that event be like, oh well, Conan always looked interesting. That maybe this is my shot. So I mean, I guarantee you, even like non-Conan fans, put up to this, or like 2 best friends, like me and my friend, we probably would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that 100 would have added up really fast. And I still think it's really funny to compare the versions of that film. Like, what was shown behind closed doors and what we got on Blu-ray are like 2 different films.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not fully, but I mean, the ending wasn't complete in what they showed behind closed doors. Like a lot of important lines were missing. Like, Amuro, do you have a girlfriend? He goes, my country. Them calling him Bourbon in the beginning of the film was not in what they showed behind closed doors.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff like that. So, they had a lot of like audio noises. It froze in the middle of the film in their version with this loud beeping noise. Obviously, you can't have that in your Blu-ray. So it was an interesting experience. I would have to dig up the original version and kind of watch them back to back to kind of get every difference.
Yeah.
But I would say the only other important thing that we haven't discussed was Conan's English merchandise.
Oh, yeah.
It was very interesting to see that go down, because when I went to the Anime Con, usually Conan things are very rare. And after like my second year going, there was a little bit more. Then I missed a year, and then the year after I went, there was more, but everything was still imported. But this year I went 2019 was the last year I went, so going in 2023, there was a lot of stuff that was actually like non-imported Conan goods, in the sense of they were labeled as case closed, and finding actual case closed, finding actual Detective Conan import things was actually very rare, like even more rare than what it was my first time going. And I thought that was very interesting, and I think it made sense, because why import something when you don't have to? That makes sense. And so almost everything was from one line, and then I found one other thing from a different thing that I just didn't buy it. But it was labeled case closed. It was in English. Everything was in English in it. Like, it was like solve a mystery with Conan, but you like build a figure. Like, it was like a premium model kit of building a Conan figure, but like it came with like a mystery and everything to solve, and it was all written in English, and I thought that was so cool to see that there. I just didn't buy it because I already dropped $500,000 on the other stuff, and I was just like, yeah, I don't.
Yeah, that was pretty extensive.
I'm like, I don't need this. And so I just thought that was very interesting to see that go down. And then when I realized they were really only on sale like in the actual public with GameStop, and GameStop only had a few versions. They didn't have everything. And now, what is it? I believe it's Walmart, Hot Topic, Amazon, and GameStop all carry it now. I got most of mine at the con, but the rest of mine I got off eBay, because when I was getting them, they weren't at Hot Topic, they weren't at Walmart. You had a few at GameStop, but I'm like, GameStop keeps raising their shipping price. Like, it used to be like $40 or more, then it was $60 or more, then it was $70. Now it's up to $90, and I'm like, you can go. I'm not doing that. And so I bought most of mine, the rest of my collection off on eBay. So I have them all as of right now. I've been checking every week or so. I check to see if any more get added, or if there's any new pre-listings, because I already have a complete collection. I'm like, I want to keep it complete now. And yeah, so that was another interesting Conan thing that I think is very important to note, just because, that means that there's more promise to the brand if they're licensing it out for merchandise under the Case Closed name.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It might have.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. They might
just from.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you can go.
Oh no! It definitely, they believe in Conan's staying power at this point. Like, even though the series is ending, they know that it's gonna be there in the U.S. for a long time.
Like Lupin was. I mean, in a sense, like when it wasn't coming out, they just kept releasing that stuff in English because it makes the money. And one day, just go text Image will be Conan one day. But when you have 18, and there's a lot of figure, lines in this line that don't go past like 3 or 4 figures, or like the top 3 or 4 main characters that are in that cast. But they have 18 Conan figures.
That's
a
cool.
lot.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like that says something in a sense. I genuinely do believe like Conan ain't done, but what's happening with Masia Group right now is scaring me. Like, in the sense of the silence. Like the last drop was very terrifying, like, because that was such a long gap in between. So I don't know. It's very interesting, but that's pretty much all the Conan stuff that I know about.
That's all I got.
Yeah.
It was. I'm just glad we got an opportunity to really discuss the new dubs and I mean the whole thing with Viz Media and the the manga stuff coming over in real time. I mean, that's just who would have ever thought in the last year or two. I mean, this whole master plan thing is really coming together in some sort of way.
I just like that and I'll state this till I die probably. I just like that I was right and no one believed me. Because I'm like, the master plan can't be the movies because they're releasing the movies and they're still talking about a master plan. And then everyone wanted to say, no, it's the movies. And so I don't know. I like, to this day, I'm very happy that I was right about that. But at the same time, I kind of wish I wasn't, because now I'm sitting in silence and not getting anything.
I mean, we've gotten a lot this year. We just haven't had it in the last few months, at least here. And I mean, there's still so much going on in India. And I really do think Masius will get another batch from TMS to do. I think they have to commission the studio to do it, though. And I think it's going to just, take time. So,
but what's nice about Masia Group being the pick, it's not like the best pick, but the reason why it was a good pick for TMS was because they had a partnership with Tubi, so like everything would just anything they did would go there. And then it was also, they were cheap because they were a brand new studio, and they were also Miami actors. So I think from a financial standpoint, making this dub for Conan was peanuts to TMS. And I think Conan's at least worth a walnut. So I like to think that they'll pay for more.
I think so. And I just hope they continue to do it through them and hopefully, because I think there's going to be some good things, from that side. So, I think, I don't know. I'm excited about the future for the brand. I think there's a lot of good things.
The way I look at it is, if it's just we catch up and then we just get the current episodes as they are, and that's it, they never go back or anything. The one thing I will say about this dub is I'm happy I could just watch the showdown in English. I think that's what it's going to come down to. That's what I'm going to be grateful for. Not necessarily the rewatchability, but just I can watch the showdown in English, because I feel like that's how it should be, just because it's how I started.
Oh, don't you worry. You'll be able to watch it in English soon.
I know. My God. Jesus.
Yeah.
But I think that will be very surreal for me, and I feel by the showdown time, the Masia group will be like, they'll be fine. The only thing I'm afraid of is they replaced Harley 3 times already, and I'm like, just between everything, between Bang Zoom and this, and I'm just like, if Kevin McConnelly, he's still trying to reach out. I got to do some research for him and try to get play agent for him, in the sense of because he doesn't have a agent right now. I believe that's what he said when I was on the chat with him. And I think I really have to play agent for him in the sense of get him the best line to contact, because I think he just emailed a support group, contact us page type thing.
Yeah, he did.
And I think finding the correct person that would really push that along type thing is the homework I would have to do. Line that up and then give that to him so he could more effectively get in there. Because the way the Masia groups works, if you wanted to walk in there tomorrow and do an audition, you could. You could submit and be like, hey, it doesn't mean you'll get it, who knows, but the fact that anyone can just waltz up to Masia group is
I don't think we know that though.
Well, that's been the impression since the very start with people talking.
I don't know if we know that for sure though. I mean, if it was that easy,
Well, like I said, I'm not saying that they're picking you, but I'm saying in the sense of
But anybody can people can send auditions into Funimation and Bang Zoom. I don't know that it's necessarily easy or not. I think that they have people that have worked for them, according to what Gia said, that there's people that have worked for them on other projects that they ended up using for because she was doing telenovelas and stuff. So I'm sure that some other folks were doing some things as well, in regards to that. So, like Jason Kessler, it sounds like her and him, had worked together for a while, and so I'm sure he was doing some stuff. And
my theory is, if we get him in the door and he voices any character, it'd be nice to have him. But if we ever lose Harley and he acts fast enough, I do think he can reland that role. Doesn't mean he'll be sounding exactly the same, but when you just hear Kevin. When you just hear him just speak, you hear Harley in his voice deep down, and I feel like just getting those quick accents of Harley and Hedgie would be fantastic.
Maybe Rolly Gutierrez would be someone to reach out to, because we did have his Instagram, so maybe he's someone to reach out to, since he's a ADR director. He might be someone that could link him to the right person, but directly. I don't know.
But I do think that that's a good move for him, because he could just be at the bottom of a barrel right now, and that will never go anywhere.
Yep. Well, I'm gonna have to sign off, guys. My phone is getting close to dying, and so I'm gonna have to sign off. But it's been fun.
Yeah, nice talking.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We've had a good couple hours here.
Oh yeah.
All right, well, have a good night.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, y'all too, and we'll talk again soon.
Oh, yeah.
Take care, everybody.
See ya.